You're watching the World News live on France 24, and it's time now for The Business with Kate Moody. Hi, Kate.
Hi, Nadia.
So it is another day, and that means another central bank raising its interest rates.
Yeah, it's really the story of the moment as central banks around the world deal with soaring inflation. Just on the heels of the U.S. Federal Reserve's 3/4 of a percentage point move, that was the first since 1994. We've seen the Swiss National Bank raising its policy rate for the first time in 15 years. The Bank of England also, as expected, announced a 1/4 percentage point hike, the fifth in a row. That brings the UK's key interest rate to 1.25%. It's the highest level in 13 years. 3 committee members had voted for a larger 0.5% move. Like many other economies, the UK is dealing with its highest level of inflation in decades. It currently sits at around 9%, but the bank has warned that prices could continue to rise and surpass 11% later this year. The interest rate hike could help tame consumer spending, but many analysts say it's unlikely to affect food and energy prices, which are the main drivers of the current inflation spike. Let's check in on the day's trading action. Lots of movement on the markets today. Investors had largely priced in Wednesday's Fed announcement, but they seem much more jittery this Thursday. The major European indices closing firmly in the red, losses of over 3% in each London and Frankfurt, about 2.4% here in Paris. The sell-off has spread to Wall Street, the Dow Jones shedding 700 points. It's dropped below 30,000 for the first time in over a year. The Dow is now close to bear market territory. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq both firmly in it. They're down about 23 and 34% from their most recent highs. As you can see, deepening those losses today. The tech sector in particular worried about higher interest rates, and the Nasdaq's down nearly 4% this hour. Meanwhile, natural gas prices have soared again as Russian energy giant Gazprom reduced supplies to Italy and Germany. The European benchmark jumping to just about 120 euros per megawatt hour, down slightly just this hour, but it is a huge spike, bringing those prices to levels not seen since late March. Well, in an effort to deal with those soaring prices and unstable supplies, the German government has urged households and businesses to conserve energy. Deputy Chancellor and Economy Minister Robert Habeck said the situation was serious and that every kilowatt hour counted. Australian authorities have issued a similar plea. The country's energy minister has asked residents of New South Wales, including those living in Sydney, to switch off their lights for 2 hours per evening if possible to avoid the risk of blackouts.
For years, the Australian government...
Well, staying in Australia, where the new centre-left government has formally committed to more ambitious emissions reductions targets. Addressing climate change was a key campaign pledge for Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, who said the new framework would provide clarity to businesses and ultimately strengthen the economy. Joseph Keane has more.
Weeks after being elected, a pledge from Australia's new leader. The government of Anthony Albanese has promised to raise emissions reduction targets to 43%, up from a target of between 26 and 28%.
And that's what sets Australia up for a prosperous future. A future powered by cleaner, cheaper energy. A future in which we make more things here. A future in which we participate in the global effort to deal with the challenge of climate change.
The vast country is one of the world's top exporters of coal and gas. Fossil fuels accounted for 93% of Australia's total energy consumption from 2019 to 2020. Oil accounted for the largest share of the country's primary energy mix at 37%, followed by coal at 28% and gas at 27%. Renewable energy accounted for just 7% of energy use. The Prime Minister said new targets would give businesses the certainty they needed to make long-term investments. Australia's fossil fuel industry has been in flux, with many major companies seeking to decarbonise their operations.
We send a message to the workers in traditional industries, in traditional energy, that we will provide the framework for the jobs of the future, as we did yesterday in Gladstone. We'll provide the policy for manufacturing jobs powered by clean, renewable energy.
Albanese has so far refused to set a deadline for phasing out coal in line with other rich countries. The country ranked 52nd out of 76 nations on the Green Future Index, which ranks how countries are shifting towards a low-carbon future.
Finally, it was one of the biggest hits in streaming history. Now Squid Game is becoming a reality. Sort of. Netflix is looking for recruits for a new reality show inspired by that fictional South Korean original. Like in the show, more than 450 people will be competing to win millions of dollars, although the losers will be allowed to go home alive instead of being killed off. There have been mixed reactions to Netflix's casting announcement, with some critics suggesting the reality show undermines the original message.
And the very thing the show is supposed to be talking about. It's talking about capitalism. It's talking about exploitation. It's talking about using people in desperate situations to benefit rich people. And they're literally imitating art and into life.
I have to admit, Nadia, I haven't seen the show, and I certainly won't be trying out for the reality.
Yeah,
one.
that is not for me. I agree. Kate Moody with The Business. Thanks very much. Well, let's get some sports now.